Welcome to J-Flo History, the channel that's going to help you get that 5 on your AP exam. Let's get started. If you've been watching these videos chronologically, you'll realize these are our last 2 court cases that College Board requires. Wow, we're moving fast. In this episode, we will talk about New York Times v. United States and Citizens United v. Federal Election Commission. Let's get right into the first one, New York Times versus United States. The setting is the Vietnam War. American news outlets have painted it like everything is going dandy, A-OK, but in actuality, that is fake news. This man right here, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, does an investigation over Vietnam. He compiles a 7,000-page research report over the war called the Pentagon Papers. Then this man here, Daniel Ellsberg, gets copies of the Pentagon Papers and sends it over to the New York Times. And lo and behold, news channels would take a break from whatever they were broadcasting to talk about what was really happening in Vietnam. Then, while President Nixon is chilling, he gets notified that the people are learning the truth about Vietnam because of these Pentagon Papers. For Nixon, this is devastating because there was a reason the truth was kept hidden from the public. The truth that America wasn't doing so well in the war. So Nixon goes to the New York Times to stop them from broadcasting any more Pentagon Papers to the public. He used the power of prior restraint. Real quick, prior restraint is pretty much just suppressing material before it becomes published. Set fire to the news before people can hear about it. Well, New York Times doesn't like that too much, so they take it to court. In court, Nixon and the U.S. argues that they have the power of prior restraint if the press's reporting poses a security threat to the country. The New York Times, on the other hand, argues that that's a violation of their First Amendment right of freedom of press. Well, the court rules 6-3 on the side of the New York Times, saying yes, the U.S.'s act of prior restraint does indeed violate the freedom of press. However, they also said that in extreme circumstances, if the court is persuaded, prior restraint can be allowed. The statement is confusing because the court fails to clarify how exactly they could be convinced that prior restraint is okay. But in the end, because of that case, the Pentagon Papers do make its way to the public, and because of that and the Watergate scandal, we see a major decline of trust in the government. We wonder, what else could the government be hiding from us? Besides the lack of trust, however, this case is seen as a major win for the First Amendment, particularly freedom of press. Up next, we have Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission. In this case, we jump forward in time to the 2008 Democratic primary. So many candidates to choose from. But in the end, we all know the most important competition comes from Obama versus Clinton. But anyways, that's beside the point. Here's the story. A conservative interest group, Citizens United, creates an interesting movie they want to post right before the Democratic primaries. And no, it wasn't Ice Age 4 Continental Drift. It was called Hillary, the movie. Pretty dull title, I know. But to sum up the movie, let's just say if you saw it on the big screen and walked out of the theater to your nearest voting booth and you looked at the list of Democratic nominees, you would not be voting for Clinton. Yeah, the movie talked a lot of trash about her and why she would be unfit for president. But some of you might be thinking, hey, that seems pretty unfair. That has to be illegal. And you would be right. The Federal Election Commission realized that what Citizens United did was not allowed. By the way, if you didn't know, the FEC is a group that administers and enforces federal campaign finance laws. And one such law that they were going to enforce against Citizens United was the McCain-Feingold Act, also called the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act. Kudos to McCain and Feingold, a Republican and a Democrat, for working together to create it. The act itself had 2 important regulations towards elections. The first is that it limited the amount of soft money donated to campaigns. And what I mean by soft money is money not donated directly to a candidate, but to their party. That's how super rich people bypassed the donation cap for candidates. The next is that it made sure that no group could upload an issue advocacy ad 30 days before a primary. And would you look at that, the Hillary Clinton movie violates just that. The FEC was going to use this act to stop the publishing of the movie and make everything happily ever after. But Citizens United had a master plan. They were going to take the FEC to court so that the court can instead rule the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act unconstitutional because they believed it violated parts of the Constitution, specifically the First Amendment. So in court, Citizens United argues that the act violates the First Amendment right, freedom of speech. The FEC, on the other hand, argues that the Hillary movie violates their act, and the act does not violate the rights of freedom of speech because the power to regulate was granted by a precedent set in McConnell v. FEC. Well, in a very controversial ruling, one that was extremely partisan, the court rules 5-4 siding with Citizens United, agreeing that the act violated the right to free speech. They also ruled that the soft money part of the act was also unconstitutional because they believed money equals speech. I know to most of us that sounds like whatever, but we need to put that into the context of our country today. Saying that money equals speech grants rich people a lot of power. They can use their money to lobby and influence elections without a limit. Their money can figuratively drown out our voices. Here's 2 videos that expand on what I'm saying into more depth and complexity, and I highly recommend you check them out. Now, time for a review. In this episode, we learned about New York Times versus United States, which was a major win for the press, and it stopped prior restraint unless in super extreme circumstances. Next, we learn about Citizens United v. FEC, which ultimately decided that money equals speech, giving a lot of rich people and interest groups a lot of power in our democracy. That's all I have for y'all today, and we just finished all the court cases College Board needs you to know, so congrats. Finally, make sure you guys subscribe, like the video, chase your dreams, and peace out.